Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. That's absolutely delighted to be here with you. I am Alicia Vega. I serve as the chair for the Mission Sustainability Initiative Advisory Committee. I'm also the owner of a company that works with the social sector during transition periods, providing executive coaching services to new EDs and CEOs, as well as providing interim executive services as well. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm delighted to introduce you to the great panel that we have here with us. I did also wanted to share that I do serve as the interim executive director of 826 Shy, which happens to also share space right now with Steppenwolf Theater as a partner in residence, and we provide writing and publication services for children in the Chicagoland area, helping them recognize their storytelling and helping them be published authors. So please allow me to introduce our panelists. I'm going to ask that they each take a few minutes to share their name, their pronoun, the organization that they serve, and in what spaces do they currently work. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Saran, if you'd like to kick us off.
Yes, hi there. Thank you for having me. My name is Saran Dunmore, and I am the Member Services Director at Impact House. My pronouns are she, her, and Impact House is located in downtown Chicago.
Great, thank you so much, Saran. Emily, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hello, Emily Macaluso here. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Vice President of Operations and Production and General Manager at the Harris Theater for Music and Dance. We are located in Millennium Park, and we are a 1,500-seat performing arts space.
Thank you. Melissa, would you like to go next?
Famous mistake, mute was on. Hi, I'm Melissa Riddle. I'm happy to join you today. I am the president and CEO at Easter Seals Central Illinois, and we primarily serve kids with disabilities, developmental delays, autism services, and we are located in Central Illinois with a primary focus in Peoria and Bloomington Normal areas.
Great, thank you, Melissa. And BJ, would like to close us out with the introductions?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is BJ Wilkin. I'm the CEO of the Bloomington Normal YMCA in Bloomington, Illinois. We serve Bloomington, the town of Normal, and the county of McLean County, regionally. So happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks. Well, in these trying times, needing to think about ways to do stronger collaborations, sharing costs, sharing resources. This is definitely a timely conversation for all of us in the social sector. The panelists today actually represent 3 different models of co-location, and I'm going to ask each of them to each tell us a little bit about how they share space. Starting with Saran, if you can talk about Impact House. I wanted to also say I'm a proud member of Impact House also. Impact House is a learning environment where you create neighborhoods of organizations. Can you tell us what that looks like and how Impact House actually came to be? Are you muted, Saran? We're all going to get one turn at it. Everybody's going to have at least one time that you speak while you're muted. It's part of the initiation. So please go ahead.
Sorry about that. Yes. So thank you for that. Impact House is the first philanthropy work club that is for impact leaders and innovators that are, like Forefront, committed to social change. And we came to be because our founder, who was a former Bear for the former Chicago Bear, Israel Adonijah, along with some of our founding organizations like Forefront, Woods Fund, and Field Foundation, they all felt that it would be a great idea to come together because everyone has a shared goal, shared mission, to come together under the same roof to share ideas, to collaborate, to work together, and to create opportunities for deeper social impact and deeper social change. We also felt that creating neighborhoods was important so that our resident members could feel at home away from home. It was important for us to have that sense of belongings because we want this space to feel like it is your space. So creating our neighborhoods where the offices and walls are branded with companies' logos, their names, we thought that was a great way to showcase not only who's here at Impact House, but also to make it feel like your house.
Great, thank you, Saran. And I can attest to the fact that the space is just so peaceful and empowering at the same time when you see all the different names of the residents there and the collective power that's in that space. So thank you. Emily, like Impact House, the Harris Theater is home to multiple organizations, which you call resident companies. Would you tell us about the origin of the resident company model and at Harris and how it actually evolved?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Harris, we are 21 years old, so relatively young speaking for arts organizations in the city. But we opened in 2003, and the Harris itself was the first multi-use performance venue built in downtown Chicago since 1929. And it really came out of a study that said that the city needed to have a shared home for mid-sized performing arts organizations that were at that time growing out of the local storefronts, but also did not have the ability to sell out larger downtown houses. So at our start, we began with 12 founding companies, and now we have 30 companies that we call resident companies with us. And really the initial partnership and relationship was really focused on those organizations self-presenting on the Harris Theater stage, with the Harris Theater offering significant subsidized rental, production, marketing, professional development support. And while that is still paramount to the model and to those companies, over time, our services and the way we support have evolved based upon the needs of the companies and kind of how the landscape has also changed around us. So with that, we've developed some other ways to keep those companies connected. So we have quarterly meetings with all of the leadership and staff of the collective, which also includes our Harris Theater board, who also sit on a committee of the resident companies. We also offer now a learning lab series, which we really dive into some topics that the resident companies are interested in or professional development growth that they need for their organization. And then I think also the biggest point of change and just evolution came out of COVID and pandemic, when we had a time that all of our companies were shuttered and maybe not performing in the way that we were used to, of really opening up that group to allow some smaller companies, some companies we had different types of partnership with, maybe in community engagement or programming, to really be a part of that collective, even if they weren't self-presenting on our stage in the same way, which really has broadened the voices at the table and really given some additional perspective as we're all still navigating the landscape coming out of the pandemic and the art sector.
All right, that's fantastic to see the variety of different adjustments that you made, and people aren't just there, but you're actually providing resources and services for them. It's beautiful. Great. Well, we have a tag team with Melissa and BJ, true collaboration. They are going to jointly respond as true partners. You are co-located in a beautiful new facility that you and your organizations co-designed and to meet specifically the needs that you have. Would you tell us about the origin? I'm sorry, would you talk a bit about how this shared facility came to be and how each of your organizations actually use that space as collaborators?
Melissa, you want me to go?
Let's take the floor.
Yeah, BJ, you were there from the start, so you take it off.
Okay. Why don't I do this? I'll talk a little bit about the inception of how it came to be, and then you can talk a little bit about cohabitating. How's that?
Sounds good.
So again, thanks everyone for the opportunity here. This project started in I would say around 2016, where the YMCA in our community was seeking to build a new facility. And however, we knew that in order to get something like this done for the community, we really needed strong partners to be able to do that. And Easter Seals was a very natural fit for us as a partner because of a couple of things. Number one, we share similar operating models and business models, but we also are in need of similar spaces. So when you think about big, wide open spaces, pools, gyms, those types of things, it really did, it's worked very, very well. We started this using really best practices in terms of capital development for nonprofits. We started with feasibility study to test the ability to raise money to build the YMCA and Easter Seals. That came back very, very positive. We embarked upon a campaign in 2018, 2019 to raise, at the time, our goal was to raise $16 million from the community. And we were very, very blessed. The community responded very, very well to our case. Really, our case was we wanted to build a welcoming, inclusive, uplifting environment that really centered around healthy living, youth development, and social responsibility. All of that jargon is very utopian for we just wanted to build an ideal place and space, this third place in Bloomington Normal where people gather. And we wanted to do it using elements of what's called universal design. And so in facility design, essentially you're, in layman's terms, that is taking the Americans with Disabilities Act and putting it on steroids and going beyond just those guidelines. So if our halls needed to be 6 foot wide, we made them 8 foot wide. If the door needed to be 32 inches, we went 36 inches, right? We really wanted to make sure that we were empowering all individuals in our community to be able to come into this space. We have been blessed to be able to do that. We opened in August of 22. And essentially, the YMCA owns the whole building, structure, and property, and Easter Seals is a tenant. But collaboratively, we work through different programs and things like that. Collectively, when we went through the campaign, our case was 2 nonprofits coming together to raise money for this great cause. So I'll stop there, and Melissa, maybe you can talk a little bit about how your end of the partnership, how you view that working.
So I joined in June of 2021. So I joined at the point where we had big, giant steel beams and a concrete floor in most of the building. So I got there right at the right time where the pre-planning had been done, and I was embarking on understanding this concept of what our current CEO had established with BJ. So it was very interesting to see collaboration. So many nonprofits, they might say the word collaboration, but this is a true coming together partnership. Both of us wanting the same goals, and accessibility is huge for Easter Seals Central Illinois. It's what we do. We work with children with disabilities, and so to be able to have a space to come into that was built out really to be able to provide the best therapy and services in a facility, and do it along with another nonprofit that was seeking to grow as well, just made a lot of sense and has worked out very well. So the collaborative nature of coming together has been pretty seamless. I give a lot of credit to our staff that we have, because I think they work together, and BJ and I work well together, and it really has been a good investment for our mission.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I do want to note for our attendees, if there's any questions that come up as the panelists are speaking, or even comments that you'd like to make, feel free to use the chat box. We will be opening the floor for questions later on. So feel free to organically just pop them into the chat box as they come up for you. So, one of the things around collaboration and partnerships, is about decision making. And I think we all love to think about the beauty of collaborations and the magic that happens. But making decisions together is difficult. And I think it's important for folks to learn about the journeys that you all had around decision making. So I was going to have you all kind of talk about how decisions are made together or how they're not made together, and maybe a little bit about maybe where some tensions might have existed before and how you worked through those. Because I believe that the best growth happens in those moments of tension. That's where real learning happens and true collaboration, relationship building happens. So Melissa, BJ, I thought we'd just kind of blend right into you on this question, as you probably both of you here speaking about how you've worked together. If you can share about how do you coordinate decisions around things that are happening in your collaboration?
Well, I can just piggyback a little bit about what BJ had mentioned before. Our relationship is the Y owns the building, and we have a lease and share the space as part of the building. So, I mentioned earlier that I think it's fortunate because our staff work well together. BJ and I work well together. So, if there would be anything major, BJ would reach out, give me a call, talk it through. We have the best interests for the Y, and BJ, I feel exactly the same, that he has the best interests for our mission and our kids and families that we serve. We've had some growing pains along the way because we both grew, which, and the Y grew a lot, which has been wonderful. But I can think of one particular instance that we didn't quite anticipate is a lot of our families have handicap and need a handicap space. A lot of our children are coming in wheelchairs. And of course, we're in central Illinois, so it's not the best of winter. And there's times where the Y is extremely busy due to certain events or time of day. And so those handicap spaces filled up very, very fast. And so that can pose a problem to our families if they're trying to fight traffic and get their kiddos in a safe manner for an appointment, for a therapy appointment. Our teams came together. The Y was very, very gracious, made additional parking spots that were labeled for Easter seals. And we really just monitored our way through some of those things. But it's really just, it comes down to just being gracious and listening to the other side and coming together to make the best decisions that really impact the community at the end of the day.
Okay, great. That was a fantastic example. I appreciate you sharing that. BJ, did you want to elaborate or add some context around decision making, any tensions, ways you work through those, or just how decisions are logistically made at your center?
Yeah, I would really echo exactly what Melissa said, and ditto to what she said. I would say that we have an agreement that's about 36 pages long. Excuse me, that spells out how to play and how to operate in the space, and that took a lot of time to put together, but it was well worth that time because as we move forward, we reference that document and we just play by the rules in that document.
Okay, great. I can imagine the work it took to actually put that document together and review and input and finalize and all that great stuff. So kudos to you to making that document happen. Great. Emily, I thought we'd come to you. If you can talk about how involved are the resident companies at the Harris in making decisions about how the theater and backstage areas are used and improved. I imagine vying for space and especially with performance, there might be some points of interventions that maybe needed to happen with that. But maybe can you share a little bit about how that happens and maybe some examples of ways that sometimes it worked well, maybe sometimes you overcame some challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is also something with our growth of companies. We started with 12 and now we have 30. They kind of have different needs from that original 12, but as you said, space and the calendar can be finite. So we do offer our resident companies first right to our calendar of dates prior to commercial inquiries or other inquiries. So that is a bit of a playing nice in the sandbox as the collective and really working through how we prioritize the most number of companies to be represented with us at the Harris, while knowing there might be some compromises because there's only so many weekends in October. So sometimes that comes with hard conversations, but it is helpful to have those moments that I spoke of, those quarterly meetings, where the companies have their own connection point and know each other also in the process and are building their own relationships and collaboration, that when we have some of those tension moments, that they have a face to the organization as well. So that helps a lot. In terms of how we look forward and improvements. Those 12 founding companies were really paramount to how we came to be in our architecture and our inception of what we have available to those companies when they come to the space, of what they truly need to do the art that they do. So as we've continued to look to make improvements of our space, we do look to that group to help ensure that we are on the right path and that we're making a decision that's truly right for the needs of the frequent users, which are the resident companies. So as an example, about 2 years ago, we did a large improvement of our audio system, a full audio overhaul, a $1.5 million project. And in that, we brought in our production teams from those resident companies, our production directors, production managers, and had them be a part of the audio demos and selecting that system that we were going to move forward with and soliciting their feedback. So we really knew that we were getting their buy-in as well with this new system and change. And then also just being able to listen to them over the years and be able to, when we had that moment and had some of that funding to do that project, really go to bat for some of the things that we've heard from the companies over the years that they would love to see in our space. So adding to just our technical inventory that makes it more cost effective for them to be in the space and just easier while they're with us. So I think that's something we're still just making sure we're always soliciting that feedback. And even, this spring, we are pulling together a larger survey to solicit more about the partnership as a whole and kind of where we can continue to improve, and also around future enhancements, what they would like to see and what would be most beneficial, and just making sure that they have that voice at the table when we're moving forward in any way like that.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Saran, what does it mean for an individual organization to be part of Impact House, and how is it that you involve them in shaping and being part of the community? I'm particularly interested. I'm a fairly new member of Impact House, so I'm a little personally interested in hearing more about that for myself.
Thank you. You were actually one of the first members that I onboarded, Alicia. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah.
An honor.
Yes. Well, Impact House started in 2019, in November of 2019, just before the pandemic hit. And our founding members, it was, they were right before the pandemic. I mean, it was March when the pandemic hit. And so it was a tough growth period for us. It was practically zero growth because no one was coming into the offices. And so our founding members, it was important for us to think about how growth would look in the future. And right now we have over 100 organizations here, and we have over 400 members. And I would say that what it means to be a member at Impact House, we have a membership application process where each person that wants to be a member here, you have to pass this, the application process. And that's important for us because we want to keep the vibe, if you will, here, one that is a shared and aligned mission with Impact House. For social change, we want our community leaders to feel safe in the space, to feel secure in the space. So we have a membership application process. And we also found that because when things started to open up, as I look around Impact House, we became busier and busier, and office space became a premium. And we realized that we need to, without having specific feedback, we would just talk to people in passing and say, hey, what is it that you're wanting, or what is it that you need? And office space was one of the things. So we've decided as a group team here at Impact House to add new pods. We're adding 4 new pods on our 3rd floor. We're adding phone booths to really make the space a place where everyone feels like they're getting their needs met, while at the same time we're growing. And I would say one of our challenges, because we did start during the pandemic, one of our challenges with the shared space is really coming to terms with the world opening back up. How do we manage right sizing things? How do we manage, everyone's needs and our hopes for the future, and really having conversations with our members and our founding members to talk about the changes that we are making. And that's been a process. However, it is something that we look forward to collaborating with our members on, and really going forward in a way that is productive and conducive for everybody.
Fantastic. Great. Yeah, the interesting factor of the timing for many of you and what the pandemic did to really put a wrench in those plans. Before, I have a couple of other questions, but before I do that, I wanted to make sure there wasn't any of the participants who had, I don't see anything in the chat box, but were there any questions that the participants had before I jump into the rest of my questions, which are going to go a little deeper? All right, great. So when you think about relationships and cohabitating, if you think about when 2 people first move in together, and there's the honeymoon period, and then there's, really getting to know each other and working through differences and getting stronger. For any of the panelists, were there moments where you either, like, a new resident came in and there's sort of a process that they have to go to get used to the culture of your organization? I know I had worked at the Chicago Children's Advocacy Center. They co-house the police department, state's attorney, DCFS, a medical clinic, and a nonprofit. And I had the privilege of working there when they first moved in together. And very different cultures needed to come and work together. Can any of you share of any instances where some of those relationship growing pains came about, how you overcame them, or even just what you put in place to anticipate those things and to help them move in a healthier direction? I'll leave it open for anyone.
I would just like to say that in order for us not to experience what you just spoke about, it was important for us to have a niche. And I think that having that niche of philanthropic organizations and nonprofit organizations have really set us on the path to have a very cohesive working relationship, where people come into our space and they feel like it is their space. They feel already like it's a relationship that was just meant to be, because most of the times members that come into the space that are brand new, wanting to become, I should say not members, but potential members, prospective members, when they come into the space, they always, 10 times out of 10, see someone that they know, see someone from a past working relationship that they've had. So for us, it was really important. And I think that's really, really one thing that separates us or makes us work at Impact House. Not necessarily separates us, because other organizations may do the same thing. But having that niche is something that has really helped us to really thrive and have a good relationship with all the members.
Okay, great. I'll just kind of add as a member, Impact House makes it very clear what the purpose of the space is, and that particularly because there are funders and the philanthropic community there, that you're not there to solicit them. So that was made very clear, and you can feel the respect of that when you're in the space. So I appreciate that. Melissa, Emily, or BJ, anything you wanted to add on that before we move to another question? So,
I'll jump in of just sharing that with the Harris, we were really intended to be a versatile space. They knew multiple companies were going to call it home. And that was always part of like being able to have the company showcase their art in a very a clean space aesthetically that they could brand it themselves. It was part of the architecture and design. So that's always top of mind for us while we as the Harris have our culture and that we are always sharing with the companies. They're also bringing their art and their audience in that have their own type of culture and what they identify with. So always being sure that we are ready to accept that with flexibility, I think, is a big part of it. And being able to balance, I think what we also want to make sure is part of the Harris experience, but also make sure that we're showcasing what they want to speak to in terms of their art and their patron experience is always that balance.
great, thank you for sharing that. Great. Well, this might be maybe a little more for Melissa and BJ because of the service that you provide in the space. I'm thinking about like conflict resolution of folks who come in and out. So I worked at the Centron Halstead for many years, and they have resident organizations that work there, and very different populations show up. You have the major donors walk in the door, then you have youth experiencing homelessness walk through the door, and you put people in spaces that aren't used to being in spaces together. It invites opportunities to potentially grow and learn from each other, but often there's conflict that kind of happens. Can maybe BJ, Melissa share in terms of when those things may erupt or what you do to prevent them, and how you kind of address that if it's sort of different populations of folks being in your space together.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in here, Melissa, and then again, you can add some as well. We again, when we designed this, we thought about that, Alicia, and so we have our defined spaces within the building, and so obviously within a lease agreement, Easter Seals has their access and their places and their spaces. And then there's the rest of the YMCA where I would say the community interacts, daily. So I think a lot of our community members realize and know that we cohabitate together. And it's rare that the YMCA goes into the Easter Seals spaces for any type of programming. However, it can be much more common for Easter Seals to come out of their space and use the gymnasium, use pools, use wellness areas and hallways to do rehab services for the kiddos. And I think the community really enjoys seeing that. They really enjoy seeing the good work that Easter Seals is doing out in those community spaces of the Y. So I guess I don't, maybe our staffs are that good, Melissa, that conflict doesn't rise so much. But, again, we've really methodically tried to think all this stuff out and spell things out. And I'll go back to, again, the personalities to make it all happen. And I would probably say that Saren and Emily, you would probably say the same thing as well. It really does take the appropriate personalities to kind of make all that happen. Melissa, would you want to add anything else there?
Yeah, I can add a little bit. So part of our programming that we do is an early intervention program, and it's funded. It runs through the state of Illinois, and it's for 0 to 3 kiddos. So they have to be under the age of 3, above 0. And one of the requirements of that is that we provide therapy, which common to be speech therapy, occupational therapy, but we need to provide that in a natural environment. And that is what works so well with our relationship with the Y, because the natural environment is not our space that we lease from the Y. But the natural environment is the space, like the playground that the Y has, and the Y kids can often be on that playground as well as our kids. And it's great because the children are mingling in an environment that everyone comes and goes. It's everyone in the community, right? So it's not just Easter Seals, it's not just the Y, it's just community members. And it gives our chance for our therapists to provide very good therapy services to those kids in that environment outside of a medical type setting, which would be viewed more of what our space is. And I think VJ is right. I mean, we've had to remind our staff more so in the beginning that, you know, we need to have a point person, because it's very easy to see BJ walk down the hall and go grab them and say, hey, we need this done, or we need that done. And so there was some education with our staff on that part of it, right? Like, we had to name a point person. We want you to funnel and everything through this individual. And that individual then talks to somebody on the Y side, so we can work through some of those things. Because when you know, like you mentioned it before, when you do go into a new space and it's a shared space and you've never shared that space before, there's going to be natural questions, even when you're even if you're not sharing a space and move into a new environment. So on our side, we do try to remind staff, you know, it's just being courteous. And if you have a concern, go to the point person. They'll work it out with a Y. And, you know, things just don't, I guess, again, I feel very fortunate because things don't come to our level. Our staff seem to work it out for the most part, which is really just what we wanted.
Fantastic. And we have a testament that came through the chat from Barbara Graham. State, I agree. My son received physical and speech therapy through you guys. The environment definitely mattered. Great job.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Very good. When people think about sharing space and collaborating in this, I know for many people who come through the Mission Sustainability Initiative and just other experiences I've had with folks in community, it often comes out of a state of crisis, either a financial crisis or losing partners and things of that such. It seems on surface that you all evolved not necessarily out of crisis but by intention. But I wanted to make sure that I made the correct assumption. Would you say that you all came together in the way that you did out of intention or in any kind of state of crisis?
I agree with intention. I think that's how the Harris came to be, and with the companies at the core of it.
Right. Well, I can share, you know, I know for the Mission Sustainability Initiative, so people do understand that that it is a resource for the community when folks are at the point of considering collaboration or shared space or merging organizations. And I know when those things first come up, there's so much to think about. And the Mission Sustainability Initiative is available to help people think and walk through those things. There's an example I wanted to also share is when I was at the executive director of Changing Worlds, and this was post-pandemic, that we were looking to have someone come share our space because we had extra space and we had a lease. So we kind of put out a call like, would anybody like to rent some of our space? And from there, an organization came and said, well, we'd actually like to merge with you. And it turned into a beautiful story of Foundations of Music was the organization that came, and then their programs got integrated into the organization and helped sort of strengthen the base of that. So that these things can happen in so many different variety of ways to get folks to kind of come together. Right. Could you all talk about, I know Saran, you talked a little bit about how to become a member, but Emily, can you talk a little bit about like, is your space open to other folks coming in? Are you at capacity? Are there opportunities for other folks who may fit your model to be part of the wonderful work that you're doing?
Yeah, actually right now is a point where we are thinking about that piece of the resident company. I will say it has been very organic over the years of companies reaching out to us, wanting to take a step to do programming at the Harris and maybe then becoming a resident company. So we've kind of worked with companies on what that like ramp up and onboarding would look like, if you will, to get to that point. But we are at a point where we're thinking about if we could start to put together a more cohesive model around a like cohort of onboarding companies at the same time to help build some like peer organizational support as they come into the collective, and thinking about what that process and kind of application process would look like. So that's kind of at a point that we're starting to move to start to build that structure. But right now, we're still working with companies as they come to us and as they're interested in maybe taking that step and what it might mean.
Mhm. Okay. So Ron, was there anything else you wanted to share about how folks could be considered as a resident partner at Impact House?
Sure. Impact House, we have over 40,000 square feet of space. So the resident members are ones who have offices here or dedicated desks. And then we also have the rest of the space that's open to what we call access members, where they can sit anywhere in the space on the second or third floor. And they also have access to the building's amenity on the fourth floor. So to become a member here, our members are funders, some are contributors, some are advisors, entrepreneurs. So we have a, a range in addition to philanthropic organizations and nonprofits that are members at Impact House. So like I said earlier, prospective members just go through a membership application process, and our membership committee are made up of those current, some of our founding members they make up the membership committee. So they just look at all applications just to make sure that those that want to come into the space share the same mission and goals as we do. So our process is such that you are welcome if you understand the mission and you believe in the mission and you want to help bring forth social change.
And I'm assuming for BJ and Emily, you're not inviting or open to other partners sharing your space. It's just the two of you, I'm assuming. Did I make that right assumption?
You're correct, Alicia. We are totally out of space. And so we're contemplating what do we need to do to expand and knock some walls down. And it's been an overwhelming success, and I certainly attribute Easter Seals to be a part of that incredible success. So it's just we're managing a menagerie of humanity here.
Got it. Well, thank you for doing what you're doing to inspire people to show up in your space and get what you have to offer. As a closing question, would each of you share one lesson learned or a piece of advice that you might give to other organization leaders that might be considering shared facility collaborations?
I'll jump in. One thing that I have learned the past 3.5 years or so since we opened was don't underestimate the potential of growth and what this partnership can do for the missions. So, we too have grown as a result of this. And we, in the beginning, had so many community members asking, what is Easter Seals? Tell us what you guys do. And that really was fun for our staff, because they appreciate that and they want to tell of the wonderful mission moments that happen between our walls. And so, with the growth of the why that they experience, that was that many more individuals passing through our logos and seeing our kids and our families and asking the why behind what we are and what we do. And it's fun to share that story. And I don't know, it's been a true blessing, and I appreciate my previous CEO who worked with BJ so hard to make it happen, and it really has been fun.
Thank you, Melissa. Did you want to add anything, BJ, to couple what Melissa shared?
Yeah, it's I would agree with what certainly she said, and I would also add that it's this is it's a process that doesn't happen overnight, and so I would just encourage people to exercise a lot of grace and patience as you navigate together. You can only go as quickly as the slowest person's willing to go through the process. So, extend a lot of grace and patience as you go through the process.
Great, thank you. Good.
I would like to add, when looking at a space to see if it's the right fit for you, what at Impact House, we make it a point because we want to foster collaboration with our members. We sponsor 3 monthly events for our members that are free to them. And it's a great way and resource for the members to sort of build those authentic relationships, because like you said, Alicia, we do have a strict non-solicitation policy, but through our events, our internal programming, we have community breakfasts every month, happy hour every month, as well as lunch and learns. And so for us at Impact House, that is our way to make sure that our members are connecting and connected. We also extend invitations for our members to host a lunch and learn. If there's something that's important and dear to them that other members can gain information from, they come and they host a lunch and learn, and it's a win-win for everybody. So here at Impact House, not only is it a secure building, which is also a great benefit that we feel is appreciated by our members. It's a secure building. It's easily accessible, and we really care about our members and want their feedback. And we also pour into them by hosting these internal programming events so that we can continue to foster collaboration.
Thank you so much, Erin. Emily, would you like to close us out with your words of wisdom?
Oh, wow. No pressure. I would just share, I think where the Harris started initially, I don't think there are a lot of things that could have been anticipated with how companies would need to do marketing now, with how the change of the landscape just in Millennium Park, with when Harris was first put in the park, the entire landscape has changed in that direct area. So just how we've had to continue to evolve and kind of meet the companies where they're at and with what their growing needs are. I think that's just been something of always going back to that. Everyone's changing every day. They are continuing to evolve with what they need, and how do we reassess that on our side to really make sure that we're serving them the best way we can. So I guess flexibility and not being scared to evolve is what I'd share.
Great, thank you so much. Great. Well, before I give our closing statements, just want to ask the participants one last time, if you have any questions, you can put in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and we could put you on the spot on the floor if you'd like to ask any questions. I see Barbara Graham has their hand up.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to try to make it quick because I know everybody probably want to get ready to go. But as a leader of a grassroots nonprofit organization, I'm always looking for spaces like you all to grow our nonprofit organization and connect and collaborate with other leaders. Unfortunately, we don't necessarily have the funds to enter those spaces. Do you all have anything in place where it could be accommodating to the grassroots organization's current budget, versus just having like a set membership fee across the board? Because Impact House, beautiful space. I'm always there for different events. I love it. the best networking I've ever done is always there. But it's like we can't necessarily afford to be in that space. So, do you all have anything in place for grassroots nonprofit organizations? And if you don't, do you know about other shared spaces that may be open to individuals like myself?
Thanks, Barbara, for that, not only that question, but the sentiment of how Impacts is a great space to come for networking. I appreciate that. We do have a couple of things. So we have some members here who have fiscal sponsors. So maybe that's a consideration for you if you haven't thought about that. And then we also have accommodations for organizations who have been only in business for less than a year. So you and I can chat more about it. If you've been if you've existed for under a year, then we do have accommodations for your organization. But maybe look into having an organization be a fiscal sponsor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Well, thank you, Barbara, for giving us a question. It was a fantastic question. We did absolutely learn more about the options and opportunities at Impact House. I want to thank all of the panelists for sharing all of your wisdom and your storytelling on your journeys to doing the amazing work that you're doing. I want to encourage all the participants here to, if you're in a space where you're thinking about collaborating, or if you're in a space where you may be in that state of crisis where you need to do some cost savings and you're figuring out how to do that, you are not alone. We know that our sector is getting hit hard and we are potentially losing some things that we've had. So you're not alone. If you're even just thinking about it, but you don't know what it looks like, the Mission Sustainability Initiative is available to you to brainstorm those things, to just be a listening ear, a sounding board at that beginning stage. So don't feel like you need to be at a place where you know everything to come to MSI and start to get resources from the resources that are here available for you. Great. I'd like to pass it on to Susie, who's going to close us up.
Great, Alicia and all of the panelists, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing our resources. And we have had a staff change at Forefront, so I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce Kay Sujata, who is joining us again as an interim director of MSI. Sujata, would you like to hop on?
Thanks, Susie. It's such a pleasure to be with all of you again at MSI. Thanks for the opportunity, and all of you on the call, if you have questions, if you have thoughts about where you're thinking about deep partnerships, you saw several examples today about co-sharing space, but as Susie mentioned at the top of the hour, there are various ways of thinking about partnership. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out. I am around. You can find time on my Calendly link, which is also on the resource page on the website, on Forefront's website. So happy to be with all of you today.
Great, thank you so much. Well, we will give folks a whole 3 minutes back in your schedule. I'm sure you'll do amazing things with that time. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you at events soon. Please frequently check out our events page at Forefront. We have many things going on. And Emily, my colleague, has just posted the programs page for the MSI in particular. So we hope to see you soon and stay warm out there. Thanks so much.
Susie, will this recording be available for people to access?
Yes, we will post this on YouTube. It'll take us a few days to get it up, but it will be available.
Great.
Thank you all.